Zainab, now I have to ask you, since you mentioned about being a woman, I want to ask you about the man in your life.
So I met my partner long time back. We knew each other from about 15 years, but we
Okay.
started dating around 2012. But the question is that I met him and he was very supportive of my transitioning because he's seen me in the as a person that I was previous to my transition, seen me through my transition and seeing me now as a post transition person. So he's seen me through my social distancing, as I might say. He's seen me transition, borne the brunt of my hormonal imbalances when people become cantankerous, angry, irritable. So I would have terrible mood swings, swinging between extreme anger and extreme depression. So I think kudos to the person, because they say that behind every successful man there's a woman. But in helping me become the woman that I am, I had the pleasure and the opportunity of having a wonderful man who stood by me.
How amazing is that? Thank you so much for your forthright sharing. I have another question here. We Avtar as an organization that works with the diverse and diversity and inclusion, and with people of different identities. We often have young people who come to us and who share the fact that they are going through a very difficult period where they are unable to come out to their families, they are unable to formally come out to their friends, and they find it extremely difficult. So what can we as Avatar do to help these young men and women who often have identities that they are not conforming to, and how can we help their journey? Is there anything that you can share with us, what we could do, or something that you have done to people who have come out to you?
One is, of course, let me congratulate you first for creating an environment where people feel safe, wanted, and acceptable to be able to even come and share these stories with you. For my personal story, I didn't feel that there was ever an opportunity for me to come out. I was forced out in the open, and the only time I came out was of my mother's womb 39 years ago. So, uh, the first thing that I would want everyone to realize that coming out may be a choice for a lot of people, and coming out becomes an accidental venture for a lot of people. People place trust in you when they come to you and tell you, this is the most intimate thing of my life. I'm sharing the most intimate, most secretive, and perhaps a tool which you can use against me for eternity. So when people come to you and tell you that I would like to discuss this, I feel closeted, I feel choked, I feel not comfortable. There's nobody in my home that supports me. Use that opportunity to be human. Whether you agree with someone's preferences, choices, or real identity, please don't be a judge because you also don't expect to be judged for the choices that you make. As a co-colleague, as a co-worker, how is someone's sexual orientation or gender identity going to change the way you work as a team? Perhaps it might only change the dynamics of delivering better because I think you've realized the weaknesses and strengths of each other and you are a more emphatic team. I think the only good thing that comes out is it makes you more emphatic, it makes you more worldly wise. And as someone once told me that this is going to be the next generation is going to be on skills because tech specialization is already the norm. You are getting machines doing the work of human beings. You're trying to remove biases. So the only thing that sets you apart from machines is your skill at people. So don't lose that. Whether you're in HR, ops, admin, business, or any role,
Right.
look at that opportunity. The second thing is that
Yes.
if someone comes out to you, that means they trust you. It also means that they might not be comfortable about talking about it to others.
Okay.
Respect their choice. Just because your company has an LGBT friendly policy, it has same sex insurance, it has everything, it doesn't mean that that person might be happy about coming out at the workplace.
Okay.
Because if we say that It is a safe space for all. And remember, safety comes at different cost to people. So let them be in the space as long as you enjoy confidence of each other. For
Okay.
LGBT community people, I would strictly and stringently mention, find a couple of people at your workplace whom you can confide with and be your true self. Because that will give you immense confidence as you move ahead. Whether even if it is nothing to do with career progression, simply your workplace buddy is someone who truly resonates with yourself. And
That's
of course,
fabulous.
if you can find a mentor who looks at you beyond your orientation or identity and truly sponsors you, that would be the icing on the cake. But in the time that you don't find that, please find a buddy.
This is such a brilliant conversation, Zainab. I'm like my mind is just buzzing with thoughts as to what an amazing individual you are in terms of how much of thought processes you have collated, and the way you speak, the way you articulate is it's just fantastic. And I must thank you because on behalf of our viewers, I have to thank you because the myAvtar show actually attracts a lot of people who believe that this is a vehicle for them to get inspired, and I'm sure that this particular episode of myAvtar, they are not going to be disappointed even in the least. I have another question for you.
Sure.
When we speak about mental health, today mental health is one of those things. I mean, it doesn't matter what your identity is. Mental health is so important to everyone, every individual, to have that sense of well-being, to actually rise to the fullest of your potential. Mental health is so crucial. But mental health is also one of those things which is not taken seriously, which individuals do not give enough time for, and which ultimately is treated as only a nice to have and not as a need to have. What are your thoughts about mental health, especially for the LGBTQ community? Have you yourself undergone counseling? And if so, how do you think such kind of counseling can be actually put in place for members of the community?
I think one is that people should stop looking at mental health as a separate health aspect. It is a very integral part of who we are today, because what COVID has actually taught us today is we might be in the same storm, but we are all in very different boats. So being in the fact in very different boats means that your mental agility, your physical resilience is very different, and of course, your socio-economic condition is and cultural condition is very different than others in the same. That's why you might be an economic migrant sitting in the cool comforts of your Delhi-based apartment with an AC on and your soft bed, while another economic migrant is probably walking the hard way through on mile. And the mental challenges. See, I think we live in an age where we are forced, we are actually forced to become role models in everything that we do. An ideal husband, an ideal son, a superlative wife who combines cooking and professionally managing and economically supporting the family, to being an effective daughter who studies well, who also does co-curricular activity but becomes sanskari at the end of the day. So I think there are multiple pressures in which we operate. Some of it are man-made and some of it are created by the cultures that we are. And I don't think there's any culture in the world which is untouched by this kind of phobia of being someone else. Mental agility. See, we have realized that sitting at home for 3 months, there's only limited stuff that you can do in terms of Zumba, aerobics, home gymming, etc. But the emphasis is why creating a good mental health condition, because as we move forward, there's going to actually be an epidemic of mental health conditions, whether it is low key stuff like just anxiety to bigger stuff like acute depression, phobias, etc. And all of this has, the phobia of losing someone, the phobia of contracting corona. You may be a young person and think you are more resilient than a 40 plus individual with comorbidity conditions like diabetes. For an LGBT person, why you need counseling? Don't look at counseling as visiting the shrink or something. The first is that you need to talk to people because you have always been subjected to some kind of interventions that tell you you are wrong socially, culturally, legally and religiously. I'm not even going to say spiritually, but religiously. So to be able to break through those shackles is a very, very long process. You need help with that. You also need help to understand that your relationships cannot be modeled or molded on the heterosexual mode of relationships. You might not be able to look at marriage in the same lens and fashion as heterosexual marriages are. So I suppose that because we do not have these kind of conditioning, and each one of us has a different way of dealing with, say, identity issues, partner issues, violence. In fact, a lot of the LGBT person, whether it is same-sex attracted men, women, or bisexual, face so much of internal domestic violence and violence with their intimate partner that we have normalized it. You know, we talk about rape within marriages, and no one talks about rape in intimate partner relationships or kind of economic issues that one faces too. And that's the reason why you need to speak to a counselor. And I think most companies would have access to employee assistance program. I think you need to channelize some of these programs to your own mental health and resilience, because as you move forward, there is a new normal in place, and that new normal can only be bolstered if you are mentally agile. So that is the reason why you need support.
Absolutely, absolutely, Zainab.